Good evening, guys, and welcome to the stream. We have an early stream today because, as I just said in the chat, I have some other engagements that I need to attend to. So, we have the last two sets from the round three of loser bracket. Let's just take a look at them over here. Yeah, like I said, I have to head out of Bombay later on, so need to get this done with. Yeah, exactly. This is a last minute plan. So yeah, anyway, we have the first set which is between Chaman Bahar and Team Agent, and the second set is between Stacker Z and Holy Guns. So yeah, I believe I've just posted the home maps over here. So Chaman Bahar have selected Serengeti and Four Lakes as their home maps, and for Agents, the home maps are Team Islands and Budapest. So Team Islands, I mean, it's still pretty conventional, but I am interested in seeing if we have a game on Budapest. It should be pretty interesting since everybody starts with two town centers, etc., etc. So yeah, exactly. And let's just go to the Civ drafts then. Yeah, so we have Doomstar on the left who is representing Team Agent, and on the right in Green Heaven, of course, playing for Chaman Bahar. So yeah, these are the brackets, sorry, the civs, and let's just go through it. Right, so we have agents who banned Japanese and Burpers. Burpers is a pretty interesting ban, but yeah, and Japanese, I mean, honestly, yeah, I don't know why they have banned Japanese, possibly because maybe they were, I don't know, overthinking something or whatever, because I honestly don't see a reason to ban Japanese over here. And meanwhile, Chaman Bahar have banned Khmer and Vikings. So Vikings, of course, makes sense. Yeah, but Four Lakes isn't any of the home maps, right? From what I remember, we've got okay, Serengeti and Four Lakes, right. Makes sense, of course, of course. So yeah, exactly. In that case, then most definitely Japanese makes sense, banning Japanese. And meanwhile, what they've done is they've banned Vikings as one of the civs, which is of course extremely good on Team Islands. Surprisingly, Italians is not banned, so we'll see if anybody has gone for them. And actually, it doesn't look like anybody's gone for Italians. Anyway, so Chaman Bahar have got Britons, Lithuanians, and Ethiopians as their first three picks, which I assume they'll be using on Arabia. And meanwhile, Agent have gone for Mayans, Franks, and Vietnamese. Pretty good archers on both sides, actually. Uh, although I would slightly prefer Britons and Ethiopians over Mayans and Vietnamese. But yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, there's no point talking about. Wait, what? Sicilian siege ram on water. Now, this I have to see. Uh, and anyways, now for Chaman Bahar, we've got Aztecs, Persians, and Portuguese. So Persians and Portuguese, of course, extremely good on hybrid maps. And on the other side, we've got for agents Saracens, Cumans, and Mongols. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of these three civs like specialize in any sort of hybrid warfare or whatever, but yeah, we shall see what the plans are. And finally, we've got Malay, Byzantines, and Chinese for Chaman Bahar. So again, Malay, of course, with their infinite fish traps and their harbors, they can be extremely powerful on team islands. And Byzantines, with their faster firing ships, the fire ships, they can be extremely potent in, early feudal age. So we have that. And finally, we have the Chinese for Chaman Bahar. On the other side, for Agent, we've got Burmese, Koreans, and Huns. So Burmese is a slightly weird pick, of course, considering Doomstars. I mean, Doomstars is extremely good, with the Burmese, but then we don't have Arena over here. So possibly a pick for Budapest, I suppose, because you can, end up with a massive snowball extremely early with Burmese, with the double castle Arambai and everything. So yeah, I mean, Chamandar have gone for lots of water. I mean, it makes sense for them slightly because they've got Four Lakes as one of their home maps, but then Team Islands is the other home map, which is for Agents. So unless they were sort of, expecting a close set where all three games were being played, it doesn't make sense to go for this, water heavy on their civs. Yeah, exactly. Lots of stone on Budapest, and the fact that you can, just get to Castle Age extremely quickly. I mean, I've seen people getting to Castle Age at like 11, 12 minutes and just start spamming Arambai. So yeah, should be interesting. And I had to unfortunately downgrade the game as well because of the new patch and everything. And since the replays were, of course, recorded on the previous version as well. So luckily, I believe everything should be sorted out over here. Let me just change the overlay and bring up capture rate. So yeah, this seems to work. And let me just give me a second here. Yeah, so right now, just in case, if any co-caster or whoever joins, you guys are able to hear them as well. And anyway, I guess we can just go live with the game. So yeah, right. So this is from the perspective of Bomberman, who's playing as the Franks. I assume he's the pocket, of course. So the first flank is Doomstar, who's playing as the Mayans. And on the other side, we have Attila Chewing Gum, who's playing as the Vietnamese. So Doomstar might be pretty dangerous over here because they've got a Vietnamese teammate, so we might see some aiming from Doomstar's side. Although on the other side, we have some pretty good players as well. So we've got K-Trooper in the red, who's playing as the Britons. We've got the Pocket, who is Red Mess, who's playing as the Lithuanians. Luckily, this is still on the previous patch, so Lithuanians, of course, aren't as broken as they are currently. And finally, we have In Green Heaven, who's playing as the Ethiopians. So it should be interesting to see if there is any early shenanigans or whatever. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, some extremely good civs. And yeah. Uh, how do you mean? Okay, yeah, very strong civs. I read very wrong civs. So yeah, extremely strong. Right, you don't lame. Regardless, it is a possibility and something which I would expect you to do. If you're comfortable doing it, of course, there's no reason not to lame in a tournament or whatever, because of course aiming is allowed, and if it gives you an advantage, there's no reason not to use the advantage, right? So Chaman's an agent, right? No. I mean, these guys, it's just a matter of, getting the snowball going with these guys with Team Agent, because Bomberman is extremely good. I've played with him, I've played against him, and yeah, I mean, Doomster, we all know how the guy managed to get to, I think, from like 1400 to 1700. It shows that he is an extremely good player, possibly one of the best players in India right now. And Attila Chingam, while he's weak, it's just a matter of yeah, I know. Bomber is 1.3k now, so Attila Chewingham, I believe, is the weakest player in their team. But as long as if he can hold off any sort of aggression on his side early on, or if there is no aggression on his side, he can be pretty potent. So yeah. And meanwhile, something surprising over here. So K-Trooper, for some reason, has gone for a forward woodline rather than one that he has on his side. Unfortunately, apart from that, he's got no wood lines. Although his gold is at the back, I don't believe it's pretty safe. Same thing can be said for the berries, and unfortunately, his secondary gold is pretty awful. Right next to a hill and way away from his base. And K-Trooper does manage to get the boar inside his TC, so that's pretty nice. He's got a nice tone though, K-Trooper. So, playing as the Britons, what's surprising is I don't believe we've had any player going for the Yeoman tech. So, maybe in this game we might see that, and K-Trooper surprisingly placing a mill slightly far away from the berries. On the other side, for Doomster, we've got a nice woodline at the front, which he's of course using for his walls. His stone is slightly far forward, but yeah, this can be protected. It shouldn't be an issue. And he's got a nice main good. He can use this woodline if he wants to wall up, so that's nice. Unfortunately, his back is pretty open, so yeah, it should be quite risky. But then, of course, Doomster usually plays in his own style, which includes a lot of aggression forward. So he might still be able to stay safe on his side. But yeah, we'll see how the games go. Bomberman, meanwhile, he's playing as a pocket, so early aggression will not be that much of an issue for Bomberman. He seems to have an idle village over here, and which he's using to make farms, right? But apart from that, yeah, his main goal is forward, but it can still be walled pretty conveniently, and as you can see, he's already pushing deer right now, which of course always comes in handy if you're going for any sort of a scouts build. It gives you a nice progression. So there is that, and berries again are pretty safe as long as he walls from the woodland to the gold. So of course the secondary gold is pretty risky. Of course he's got the hill as well, but his stone is quite safe, if I may say so, because I think he can just use this gold to wall to this woodland and possibly to this tree. A slightly bigger. Just give me a second. 2904. So yeah, I mean it depends on what sort of walls he decides to go with, but yeah. And finally, for Attila Chewing Gum, I actually love his base. At least the front of it is extremely safe. No, that's not my card pin. That's my dad's birthday. So, yeah. I think he can use this wood line to this to wall up. Apart from that, yeah, his sides are pretty exposed, as is his stone. But then he's got a nice wood line on the side, and his berries are extremely safe. So that's nice. And he's got a secondary stone as well, or his main stone, whichever you want to call it, is again quite safe. So it should be interesting. And yeah, so meanwhile we already have Red Mess who has started to wall up, and he's already got a barracks up. Any early aggression? Okay, so we've got Doomster who's already made some militia in his barracks. Yeah, there we go. And he's queuing up a couple more Mayans. Of course, they get the cheaper archers, so yeah, these man-at-arms can be extremely handy as long as you manage to keep them alive. So once you get your archer mass up, these man-at-arms can again be a massive pain in the ass. Although what's surprising is he's already starting to make these quick walls over here, so maybe I think it looks like Doomster doesn't want to wall up, or maybe doesn't want to wall up early on. So he's just hoping that there are no archers inside his base, and yeah, man-at-arms or whatever, of course, or a drush can easily be protected with this. So he's going for some quick walls rather than fully walling his base, which I mean, I personally don't agree with, but of course Doomster's a better player than me, so maybe he can use this to his advantage. Less wood being spent, of course, means he can drop the 2 archery ranges extremely quickly. And we already see here that K-Trooper might end up losing a villager if he's not too careful. And yeah, so there we go. That's 1 kill for Doomster already. Let me just change over to the idle TC time. So yeah, let's see if Doomster manages to keep his man-at-arms alive. Indeed, he does. And let's see what his scouting's like. Ah, man, this is quite unfortunate here for Doomster. So he has not found the gold. This entire area is completely dark. So yeah, he does not know where K-Trooper might be collecting gold from. But yeah, and I think Doomster is just asking Bomberman for some sort of help from his scouts, because Bomberman already has a couple of scouts out. So there we go. On the other side, we've got Red Mess, who's also got his scouts out. I am trying to find them over here. And yeah, so there we go. Red Mess's scouts already inside Doomster's base, and Doomster's decision to not wall up properly. So I mean, at least his lumberjacks are safe. His gold villagers currently are open, but yeah, I mean, if he just makes a gate over here, plus maybe a single palisade wall over here, these gold villagers would be pretty safe. And yeah, so now Doomster's actually found the gold. Surprisingly, does not decide to attack over here, but yeah, a lot of damage on K-Trooper side. At least a lot of idle time over here, because I think, yeah, so now Doomster might lose his man-at-arms, but K-Trooper isn't responding either, so that's some small mistake from him. I think Doomster might still lose 1 man-at-arms. Yeah, there we go. And meanwhile, Doomster is also getting attacked on this side from Red Mess. And Red Mess being extremely careful over here, so not losing his scouts or even a single scout to a spear. So that's nice. But I mean, at this point, you can see that Doomster's economy is also pretty shambolic. We've got all these villagers on the stragglers. And unfortunately, his berries are completely unused at this point, or mostly unused, I would say. And I think, yeah, so he's just asking for Bomberman's help with his scouts, but then Bomberman's got just 2 scouts over here, and these 4 are like pretty late to the party. So Bomberman might... Okay, so Bomberman does lose 1 scout, and yeah, Red Mess just decides to pull back over here. And okay, so K-Trooper... I mean, at this point, I think it just makes sense for K-Trooper to wall this up slightly better than what he's doing right now. honestly, I think he should have, kept at least one safe gold inside his base, because as it stands right now, if K-Trooper is hit with Doomster's archers, which are moving forward, as you can see on the minimap over here, if the Britain player does not have access to gold, it can be pretty bad. And I don't think K-Trooper has any military out. Yeah, indeed he does not. And K-Trooper loses one more villager. So, man, these man-at-arms from Doomster have done quite a good job. And meanwhile, on the other side, we've got in Green Heaven, who's already moving forward. He's added a couple of three skirms I can see here, actually. Yeah, so that's three skirms. And he's got archers. Unfortunately, no fletching yet. And Attila seems to have done a smart thing over here. So these walls sort of effectively guarantee that he has some access to gold, at least initially. His other gold is pretty unsafe, but yeah, I think he can just keep using this gold because there won't be any harm to that. And Attila, and yeah, so there we go. As I was saying, his walls of course never came up, so it's irrelevant now anyway. But can you zoom out a little? Yeah, I guess this should be fine. So yeah, anyway, Doomster now just pulls back his archers, but as you can see, K-Trooper has not managed to wall up. And honestly, Doomster at this point, rather than camping here, maybe he can leave a couple of archers here to, make sure that the walls never come up. But apart from that, I think he can just chill here and deny the gold for K-Trooper. And K-Trooper, meanwhile, I think will end up losing his scout as long as Doomster is paying attention, which I believe he does manage to, right. So there we go. And right, so not a lot going on here on the other side, surprisingly. I mean, both these guys have a pretty massive army. If you're just counting feudal age, but yeah, I mean, in green isn't attacking. That's the issue, right? He's just pulling back, and he has fletching at that point. At this point, Attila also has fletching. He just has a massive military, and of course, he's playing as the Vietnamese. So yeah, so there we go. So Red Mess, I think, has lost all his scouts, and Doomster is inside K-Trooper's base. Honestly, the mistake I feel like, Doomster's making is this leave 4 archers here, man. You need to pressure his gold. Because from what I know, or from what he has seen, he can see his main gold, which he knows, of course, that there's a mining camp over there. This one is extremely risky, so it's pretty sure that he won't be using this gold. And this market, right? Honestly, I don't understand why he's making this market over here. I mean, even if he's making it to equalize his economy or whatever, yeah, I mean, a bunch of idle time for K-Trooper, man. But honestly, yeah, this tower, instead of being here, it should have been here. And okay, so we have Doomster who's going for the pocket now, which is a pretty smart move, because we've seen a couple of games where the pockets are allowed to boom without any sort of pressure and they just end up wrecking. So yeah, Doomster's doing the smart thing here, going onto the pocket, and meanwhile in Green Heaven is not able to go inside, and he's losing his archers over here. Of course, these are Vietnamese archers with the armor upgrade as well. Meanwhile, in Green Heaven does not have the armor upgrade, and these are the standard Ethiopian archers. So even though these guys fire faster, Attila's archers are more tanky. And I mean, we can just see how the battle is going. And yeah, I think in Green Heaven might end up losing his entire ball of archers. Meanwhile, we have Bomberman who's clicked up to Castle Age. We've got Attila who's clicked up to Castle Age. On the other side, all three have clicked up. And in Green Heaven, man, he's about to hit Castle Age, but he lost pretty much his entire forward military. So all he's left with are these archers, which of course will become crossbows. And I mean, of course, he's playing as the Ethiopian, so they get the extra bonus on aging up. So that is pretty effective. But then you've got Doomster who's already inside the pocket space. And Agent, of course, with a massive military lead here. So Agent has a total of 50 military. Compare that to, just 24 for Chaman Bahar. So this can snowball pretty quickly from here once they get to Castle Age. And yeah, Doomster, man, he's doing a lot of damage here. So Red Mess has lost 11 or 12 villagers now. Make that 13. And Doomster and Bomberman have been extremely effective in destroying the economies of their opponents, of course. And yeah, I mean, even though K Trooper will get to Castle Age, unfortunately, man, these archers, he's just getting fletching now. He's not even getting the crossbow upgrade, so this will be a massive issue for K Trooper. And the fact that these guys decided to make a team wall here between Red Mist and in Green Heaven. Of course, in Green Heaven has been smart enough to, wall up his own base. But yeah, I mean, Red Mist, apart from that, is pretty much completely open. There's this massive gaping hole here, and if anybody attacks these walls, especially any sort of knights that Bomberman might be sending forward, there's nothing that Red Mist can actually do. So, right, we have Red Mist with his knights, and let's see what happens over here. Of course, entire thing over here depends on how Doomster's archers manage to make the engagement. But I think he's just busy throwing his archers away to town center fire. Of course, he's getting a couple of villager picks, but yeah, Doomster will also lose his entire army. And Red Mist is starting with his Knights production. And yeah, so we have some forward movement by K Trooper. And please don't tell me there's a hole over here. Okay, so Doomster loses one villager. And right, so we have a pretty nice hole here for K Trooper to get inside. And yeah, so now this means that Doomster does not have any access to gold. Or any safe access to gold, of course. And, and these villagers, at this point, yeah, just send them forward, make a tower, do whatever you can with these, whatever. Yeah, okay, so Bomberman does have +2 knights. Let me see if Red Mist has got his upgrades or not. Okay, so Red Mist does not have the upgrade yet. And wait, where is this villager going? What? She's collecting deer and she's having to walk all the way over here. And unfortunately, the deer runs out. So, okay. There's another deer over there. Oh man. And yeah, so this army will of course be cleaned up now because Bomberman has his +2 knights and yeah, so K-Troopers lost pretty much his entire army. He's left with just 5 crossbows, which I assume are still inside his base. Or they are not. Right, so there are K-Troopers cross. Ah, there we go. Yeah. And yeah, so surprisingly, in Green Heaven going for Thumbring. So my assumption now is that he's already got ballistics, which is why he's going for Thumbring now. And of course, Ethiopian crossbows with Thumbring, they can actually just wreck. So yeah, there is that, and Bomberman's going forward now. Honestly, at this point, it would make sense to just go and raid in Green Heaven rather than going towards the pocket because the pocket has been hit extremely hard. He's lost 17 villagers, Red Mess over here, and man, in Green is so aggressive. He's already got a forward siege workshop. I don't believe it's GG actually because. We've got In Green Heaven pushing on this side. On the other side, we have Doomster who's dominating K-Trooper. So we might end up with the flanks dying on either side. But apart from that, yeah, should be interesting to see. And Attila going for University. So I assume he wants ballistics. But yeah, this is pretty late. 50 villager difference, yeah, most definitely. But then In Green Heaven is holding on his side. And as long as K-Trooper doesn't just flat out die, they can still come back from this. Because Red Mess does, of course, have his Lithuanian Knights. Although I just saw him getting Bloodlines now, which is quite late. If you're playing as any civ which has access to Bloodlines, I mean, except for Franks, of course, who get it by default. You should be getting the Bloodlines upgrade as soon as possible. But yeah, anyway, as we can see here, these knights should be able to make short work of these crossbows, of course. So yeah, I mean, as long as In Green Heaven is not given the hill bonus, yeah, most of these crossbows should be taken care of. Especially with these knights and these crossbows from the Vietnamese player, yeah, it makes no sense. And yeah, so K-Trooper, he still has 22 crossbows, but I mean, there's not a lot that can be done with them, of course, because you've got Doomster with 34 crossbows, 35 now, and of course the number just keeps increasing. So yeah, there we go. They just decide to call the GG at this point, and yeah, this is pretty bad. So yeah, let me just update the score here, and that's one for Team Agent, zero for Chaman Bahar. GG guys, and I mean as you can just see here, the idle villager time, the idle TC time, it was just way over the place, and the fact that Red Mess lost 17 villagers and K Trooper lost 10 villagers, pretty early on. So yeah, there's not a lot that could have been done over there. So let's just take a look at the stats we've got here. Should be pretty one-sided, of course. So we've got, yeah, Bomberman with 53 kills, 27 deaths, Doomster with 40 kills, and Attila with 51 kills. So although Attila had pressure on his side, I mean, like I said, he managed to just hold on, and later on, before his push could actually begin, the game was over. Because I mean, you can just see the KDs over here for all three of these players. We've got Red Mess with pretty much double the deaths, compared to what kills he had, and practically no army to speak of. And for In Green Heaven, I mean, he was pretty good on his side. He managed to pressure Attila Chewing Gum, but Bomberman was there to, just completely destroy the crossbows. And I mean, finally, K Trooper, honestly, I think the initial three man at arms for Doomstar did a lot of damage. After that, I don't believe he ever actually got to wall up properly. And the other mistake that he made was not having a safe source of cold. So even though he made his tower, the tower was not in the right location, I feel. And yeah, so this is what it looks like. And finally, technology, of course, a pretty short game, so nobody got to Imperial Age. But apart from that, you've got Red Mess. I mean, Red Mess did get to Feudal Age almost a minute before Bomberman. But apart from, yeah, scoreboard, just give me a second. I'll update that. So yeah, I think it should be updated now. And yeah, so as you can see here, looking at the society numbers, Bomberman, yeah, extremely overpowered. Especially compared to Red Mess, who could just mass up 50 villagers. Of course, he could have done some damage, but yeah, I mean, Bomberman, especially the fact that he was never raided, never hit hard, whereas we had Red Mess being hit extremely hard by Doomstar's archers. So yeah, pretty quick game over there, and timeline just shows everything anyway. And let's go to game two. So game two is on four legs, right? And let me just load that up. And I believe there's been a change in the player, so I will need to update the overlay again. And just give me a second, I'll do that. We've got. And on the other side, right, so Wacky Toad has come in, and let me just update their name as well. Yeah, so that's one for Agent, not for Team Chaman Bahar, and that's unpause, right. So we have Bomberman who's playing as the Cumans, and of course playing as the Pocket, so you get some nice access to the lake pretty close by. One side you have Doomstar who's playing as the flank with Saracens. Should be pretty interesting because of course this is still on the previous patch, so Saracen archers are extremely deadly when they see any sort of walls or buildings. And on the other side we have Attila Chewinggum who's playing as the Koreans flank, so that should be pretty interesting. On this side we have Wacky Toad who's playing as the Portuguese. Okay, we've got the Pocket, who is again Red Mess, who's playing as the Persians, and finally we have the other flank, who is in Green Heaven, playing as the Malay. So, hey man, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. So, yeah, let me just switch to. Oh, actually, it was right. Okay, yeah, so we've got idle TC time. No idle TC time for Doomster, showing us what a professional he is now. So there's 0 seconds of idle time on his TC. Unfortunately, 12 seconds on his villager, but I mean that is to be expected. So yeah, and finally, wait, what? So Doomstars? pinging at a random location where Red Mess's scout is. Okay. And yeah. So this being 4 lakes, of course, we should see the docks come up pretty soon, in about a minute or so. And after that, yeah, hopefully we get to see some shenanigans where, one of the teams, or at least both the, or I mean, both the teams decide to, fight for the water on the other side, for the lake. So, yeah, should be pretty interesting over there. Anyway, let's just take a look at the maps here. So we've got Doomster who's going to go up against In Green Heaven, and Doomster has, I mean, this. And yeah, so Bomberman Scout ties to Red Mess's TC, and unfortunately in all this chaos, Red Mess's boar dies way away from his TC. So yeah, that's just unfortunate, but it happens sometimes. And we might see In Green Heaven losing his scout to the TC, or possibly not.
Amron?
Surprisingly, not attacking the village over here. Because of course at 4.5 minutes nobody is going to have loom except for the mines or the Chinese player, of course. So yeah, I mean, looking at the maps in Green Heaven, man, this is a pretty nice woodland at the front. I mean, it can still be ranged with archers or a tower or whatever, but that's a pretty safe and pretty close to his TC as well. And we have a fight here. Yeah, so In Green Heaven will end up losing a villager to Doomster Scout. So and yeah, now Doomster now has to run away because his scout will die otherwise. And unfortunately, in all of this, In Green Heaven is having to send another villager to make the docks. I mean, of course, he's already a villager down because of this fight, and I just hope that In Green Heaven is paying attention. So yeah, he is, and decides to just bail from the fight. Yeah, Vahak Doomster, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think In Green Heaven is more interested in checking out, what Doomster is doing over there. So Doomster's dock will be discovered,
Lam?
and Doomster luckily has loom. So even if there is a scout fight or a fight with the villager, Doomster can still, save his villager if he decides to. Oh, but then we have Red Mess who's also sending a scout over here. So Doomster will also lose a villager, unfortunately. And yeah, I think at this point In Green Heaven can just run his scout away to save it. And, yeah. So that's a 1-1 for Doomster versus In Green Heaven. Double way, but man, you could have just made a quick wall over here. You were extremely greedy with your houses or whatever. You could have just placed a quick wall over here, or managed to save your villager when you're building the house, and you could have made a house, which you are doing now, inside your base rather than next to your docks or whatever. So that was just you being greedy, honestly. But you have managed to get a dock up, so yeah, you have your fishing ships, and we've got the pockets over here who've already clicked up to feudal age. Of course, they also have their docks up, so yeah. And we've got some shenanigans here, or rather, we will have some shenanigans here, and Attila will probably lose a villager because Wacky Toad, yeah, so his scout. Oh, I think Wacky Toad will end up losing his scout here. Let's see. Let's see how greedy he is. Okay, so he was extremely greedy, and Wacky Toad manages to lose his scout. So yeah. And I think this is the second or the third time in this tournament where we've seen players walling up the back rather than their front initially. And I mean, especially considering the fact that Red Mess is playing as a pocket here, he needs to make sure that the front of his base is initially at least walled up. And another mistake that he's making here, of course, is his barracks and now his stables are at the back of his base. So yeah, that is a massive disadvantage for him. And meanwhile, on this side, we've got Bomberman who's already getting his stables up. Although he's just using one villager. Personally, I prefer to use two because you can get the scouts out pretty quickly. So yeah, and wait. So Wacky Toad still hasn't, or sorry, not Wacky Toad. I mean to say, uh, yeah, okay now. So everybody's clicked up and everybody's in feudal age, I guess. Just an oversight on my part, but yes. So in Green's Heavens, Scout is just chilling over there between you've got Bomberman and Attila Chewing Gum. So let's see what sort of scouting he has done. Yeah, so not a lot, unfortunately, and Red Mess. Honestly, man, if this guy had the team vision, because they've got a Portuguese ally, there's no way a scout should be running through this, and he loses scout to Bomberman scouts anyway. So yeah. Wait, I don't understand this. Why Bomberman needs to be sending his scouts forward? Three scouts is more than enough to do some sort of aggression early on. So and yeah, so we have Attila who's already aggressive with his fire galleys. So now, of course, this means that Wacky Toad's fishing ships will effectively not be able to collect any food. And I mean, at this point, Wacky Toad does not have a dock in the back lake, which would have been the safer option, of course. But yeah, so I mean, he does not have a dock at this point, and these fishing ships, of course, are being wasted. They should all die because I don't. Yeah, so Wacky Toad isn't even making any sort of fire galleys over here. And in Green Heaven, loses a scout while attacking the house, but yeah. And on this side, so we do have Red Mess who will manage to wall up his base because we've got Bomberman who is attacking Red Mess's scouts, and let me just check if any of them have any upgrades. So no upgrades yet for anybody. And Bomberman adding more scouts as well. So we've got wait, what? We've got 11 scouts. Ah, okay, I missed these. So that's 9 scouts over here, and Red Mess might have a couple somewhere close to it. Man, double stable. Uh, Holy shit. So Red Mess is going extremely heavy into feudal age, which could be the right play, of course. But I mean, looking at this point, he's running towards his own base with his 11 scouts with bloodlines. Man, these scouts is. I mean, these scouts. I honestly don't know why they were running back because they still outnumbered Doomster scouts. And please tell me he's going to engage with these rather than running forward. And yeah, right. So he wanted a hill. Man, honestly, Red Mess at this point, like if you okay, so he's not walled up. Man, just make a couple of spears, put them here, finish your walls, and send your scouts forward. And yeah, so we have Doomstar who's already inside in Green Heaven's base, and on this side, actually, there's about to be a fight. And wait, Attila is just pulling back his archers. Uh, okay, he's got some more over here. Fair enough. And yeah, so Doomstar's about to be hit pretty hard with these 11 scouts with bloodlines. No attack upgrades yet, but wait, what is Doomstar doing? So Doomstar effectively lost a villager because he wasn't paying attention, I suppose. I mean, it makes sense. He's inside in Green Heaven's base, so let's just take a look at that now. And yeah, so in Green Heaven makes a tower, again a pretty shocking tower over here. And yeah, so it seems there was a disconnection. And yeah, honestly, man, this tower. I mean, if you're not going for proper walls, so yeah, I guess this was broken due to the Saracen archers. But yeah, I mean, this tower, I honestly feel it should have been over here because you already have a TC over here to defend yourself. Yeah, this is not GG, man. So what we'll do is we'll just go to part 2 of the replay. And yeah, I guess we can just go live. Unfortunately, some of these statistics won't work, so you'll just have to bear with that. And yeah, so In Green Heaven already has his tower up, so that part was recorded in the save game. But I mean, yeah, like I said, even though we've got In Green Heaven with his skirmishers, he might be able to push away the archers short term. Honestly, I personally wish the tower should have been on this side because at this point the gold is completely unprotected anyway, and In Green Heaven isn't revolving this either. And on this side, so Doomster again going for these quick walls. I mean, it's fair enough, if Doomster is confident enough that those quick calls will save him from, the opponent's archers, or rather the scouts or whatever. But yeah, I mean, long term, honestly, full walling your base just makes more sense. And yeah, so we've got Bomberman also with 10 scouts now. So both these guys went extremely heavy on feudal scouts. Unfortunately, it seems like both of them are going to lose, most of them. Although, yeah, we can just see that, that the power of Bloodlines coming in handy here. So Red Mess winning this battle with 4 scouts still alive. 2 of them, although just barely alive. But yeah, Bomberman about to be hit with these scouts from Red Mess. And I think Bomberman will lose a couple of villagers. Oh, he does the smart thing over here, just deletes his mining camp. So that's pretty nice. And on this side, per usual, Attila Chewinggum just sort of camping with his archers. So he's there to defend on his side, but he's not going for any sort of real aggression forward, which I personally find is a mistake because Wacky Toad is completely open, and not only is he completely open, his lumber camp is a pretty shocking. It's got a pretty shocking placement. I mean, at this point, you might as well just use the straggler trees on your villagers, man. And over here, so we've got Doomster's dock has been completely wiped out with these fast fire ships from In Green Heaven. And on this side, it's the opposite. So we've got Attila Chewinggum who's managed to gain control over this lake over here, and something is being pinged. Okay, so we've got Red Mess who is inside Attila's base. Of course, nobody seems to be going for walls, which I find extremely weird, especially on a map like Four Lakes, which can be walled up easily. So, I mean, yeah, Bomber still has a couple of his scouts. I believe these are new scouts that he has made. So, he might still end up winning these fights if he engages properly. Because although we've got Red Mess with 3 scouts, they are just barely alive at this point. And we've got Bomberman who's also got Bloodlines, yeah. So, yeah, Bomberman is... 4 Lakes is not tough to wall, man. You can wall up 4 Lakes if you play with the right attitude. And yeah, so we've got Wacky Toad who's showing Attila that there's a hole in his base and he needs to wall it up. But I mean, Attila's base is just pure chaos at this point. Somehow this villager has ended up here for some reason. No, I'm not a Trump, man. Uh, I mean, it's just a wall, right? It's just palisade walls. Of course, you can manage to make them properly if you decide to. And this time we have the opposite. So we've got In Green Heaven who is inside Doomster's base, and we've got knights from the pocket player. And on the other, I mean, Doomster most definitely has a much bigger army when you just compare them. We've got 24 crossbows for Doomster and 18 crossbows for In Green Heaven. And of course, Doomster at inside his own base, so of course he can just keep reinforcing pretty nicely. And yeah, so let's just take a look at the upgrade. So we've got Red Mess with the +2 armor upgrade, and yeah, so we've got both the players with equal upgrades and the same number of knights, I believe. Okay, so Bomberman's got 10 to Red Mess is 7, but I don't believe we are seeing all the knights over here, so there might be some knights elsewhere. Yeah, so I mean, they tried to enter Saracen's base, which is what they have to do if they want to win the game. So, their heart was in the right place. It's just a matter of, being able to defend your base better than them. So, Yeah, and of course, Saracens, once you get or once you reach somebody else's base, I know how effective Saracens can be. But Attila's crossbows seem to be going on a bloody picnic over here. Because of course he does not have a market, which means that he does not have any sort of visibility. And will we see Vakito losing a couple of villagers to these crossbows? Yes, we will. And yeah, so honestly, yeah. I mean, since we are talking about walling anyway, it's not like these guys haven't tried to wall up. It's just, what is this? Like if Doomster decides to keep this open by choice, that is a different thing altogether. But apart from that, there's no reason why this should exist. And yeah, so there's massive fight over here, and let's just look at the military numbers. So yeah, Green Heaven is losing most of his crossbows. Will of course lose all of them because yeah, I mean Red Mess has just 3-4 knights, and at this point, yeah, these knights won't be able to do anything because Bomberman is just like way ahead. He's got 20 knights. We've got the Saracens player with his crossbows, so this gate is practically non-existent anyway in a couple of seconds. Right, so you don't want to wall up. That's a different thing then, fair enough. If you decide that you don't want to wall up, fair enough. There's nothing I can say about that. And yeah, I believe this is pretty close to the end in this game as well because Agent has a massive lead in both the numbers. So they've got 207 villagers to just 167 and 90 military, compare that to 20 or 21. And Attila going forward with a pretty aggressive castle. I love this castle. And although it doesn't range the gold, it is pretty difficult for Wacky Toad to collect it anyway now because yeah, as you can see, the base is completely open, so these crossbows can camp here all day long. And yeah, I think this is pretty close to the end anyway because Doomster's inside, and yeah, so the siege workshop won't go up. For some reason, they've left this archery range rather than destroying it, and Doomster seems to be losing some crossbows. Or maybe he might use a couple of crossbows to this tower fire. But yeah, I mean overall I don't even know why Doomster's pinging at the dock or the lakes rather, because I think the lakes at this point are completely irrelevant. So yeah, we have this on this side. Meanwhile, on the other side, we've got Attila who is also inside Wacky Toad's base, and Wacky Toad I think will have to move away from this TC. But yeah, I mean, long term, I think Attila just needs to scout a little better. Let me see what sort of scouting he has. Okay, so he does know about this good line. It is surprising that he's not deciding to go and attack over there, because these crossbows most definitely are not needed here. You already got the castle over there, so you might as well send your crossbows forward. Of course, not into town center fire, but yeah. And on this side, yeah, I mean, this is pretty close to GG at this point because we've got Green Heaven with just 45 villagers. And although Red Mass has 84, he's got practically no military. Compare that to Bomberman, who's got 39 knights, while Red Mass has just 5. And he's got a Mangonel, which, I mean, at this point, the Mangonel is completely pointless because Doomster's knights can snipe any Mangonel that comes out. And yeah, so there we go. That is the GG called. Which means that Team Agent have a pretty smooth progression into the next round. And yeah, so these guys, they were pretty clinical in their games. And let me just show you guys the stats here. So yeah, I mean, these guys, they played extremely aggressively. And you can just see that in the KDs. Again, we've got Green Heaven who, I mean, of course, again, this time he managed to push forward slightly, but then once Bomberman came forward with his knights, and the fact that Doomster still had more military than in Green Heaven, so yeah, I think long term this was never going to work out. And I mean, you can just see it in the military numbers as well. We've got Bomberman with 41 knights, We've got Doomster with 38 crossbows and Attila with 39 crossbows. And meanwhile, on the other side, yeah, so these guys never managed to mass up any sort of real military, especially when you compare it to what their opponents had. And yeah, so economy numbers. Attila, of course, did drop the forward castles, so that explains his stone collection. And I believe he placed a forward mining camp as well. So the guy was being pretty greedy. And yeah, again, villager numbers, just this massive, massive difference between the two teams over there. So Red Mare with 89, compare that to the other pocket, Bomberman with 110 villagers, so that's effectively 21 more villagers. And on the flank side, yeah, so Wacky Toad with 45, compare that to Attila's 85, so that's 40 more villagers for these guys. And in Green Heaven 58, compare that to Doomstar 72. So yeah, GG's guys. Let me just update the brackets here. Give me a second. So yeah, we've got a 2-0 for Team Agent against Chaman Bahar. And this is what the brackets look like currently. So the second set that we'll be casting now is Stacker Z versus Hooligan. So Stacker Z, I believe, is the second or the third highest seeded team in the tournament. They've got a couple of extremely strong players. So let me just announce the home maps here. So we've got Arena and Golden Pit for Stacker Z as their home maps. And on the other side for Hooligans, we've got Hideout and Oasis. So, I mean, pretty much all of these maps are extremely boomy, except for, I would say, Golden Pit, which can be sort of snowbally once you get to Castle Age, depending on, who manages to get the castle up initially. But yeah, I mean, it should be interesting to see. And let me just go ahead and look at the Civ draft as well. So yeah, we've got Rogan, who is on the left playing for Stacker Z, and on the other side we have Zeus, who's representing Hooligans. So let me just fast forward this, and oh, okay. So what Stacker Z have done, or honestly, what I'll do at this point is I'll just call them Stackers because they are still effectively just one team. They've had to split up and play as two separate teams, but I mean, for now we can just refer to them as Stackers. So what Stackers have done is they've banned Ethiopians and Goths. Goths is a pretty interesting ban. I honestly do not remember anybody banning Goths, or it might have been just once. And on the other side, Zeus or Hooligans have banned Britons and Franks. So you've got Britons, Franks, and Ethiopians, three of possibly the best civs for Arabia, being banned outright before any other civs have been picked. And yeah, I mean, this is honestly this specific ban or this type of a ban I don't think I've seen in this entire tournament. So you've got Britons, Franks, and Ethiopians just banned from the outright. Wow. So yeah, anyway, we've got Hooligans who've picked Saracens, Magyars, and Vikings. Saracens, of course, we just saw the power of the Saracens in the previous game, which Doomster played. So Saracens is pretty good. Magyars, of course, with their man-at-arms or their scouts and their knights getting the free attack upgrade, so that can be pretty effective. And Vikings, of course, with their eco. Although we don't have any water maps this time, so Vikings will be a purely land-based civ this time. But yeah, Vikings of course get their extremely good archers and their berserks. If they ever come into play along with the siege rams, they can be pretty deadly. And the fact that they have the best eco in the game is, yeah, pretty useful. On the other side for stackers, we've got Khmer, Mayans, and Vietnamese. So I mean, yeah, since two of the best archer civs have been banned, you end up picking Vietnamese, and you have. I mean, what we can see in front of us here. So we've got Vietnamese. Mayans is pretty good, of course, and they still have the Obsidian Arrows tech, so should be interesting if if these guys decide to use that tech. But anyways, we've got Sicilians and Burgundians who those civs do not exist in this universe, so please let's not talk about them. So yeah, Vietnamese, Mayans, and Khmer for stackers. Then we have for hooligans we've got Persians, Koreans, and Portuguese. Right. So honestly, I hope that once we have the future rounds. I want to actually ask the team players why they've picked the civs that they've picked, because Koreans, of course, is pretty good. We saw what Dowd was able to do with them, but yeah, I mean, I do feel there are still better civs available in the game. You know, when you look at some of the picks here. On the other side, we've got Berbers, Japanese, and Burmese. So Burmese, of course, makes sense because we've got Arena as one of the home maps. Berbers, yeah. So with the cheaper, stable units, they can be very, very effective. So they're always nice to have in your draft. And finally, the Japanese, again, with their fully upgraded arbalists and the fact that they have some pretty good infantry on their side. So yeah, that's pretty nice. And finally, we've got Hooligans with Indians, Cumans, and Aztecs. So a couple of pretty nice boomy civs. Indians, of course, with their cheaper villagers. Cumans with the second PC in the feudal age. Siege possibly coming into the equation in feudal age itself, which we did see in one of the games on Arena. So Cumans with some feudal siege can be pretty deadly, and we've got Aztecs as well. So yeah, I mean Aztecs on a map like Arena or even Golden Pit can be pretty deadly. And on the other side, we have Tatars, Bulgarians, and Teutons as the final three picks for stackers. So Teutons, I think, of course, makes a lot of sense on Oasis and Arena. So that, of course, yeah, is going to be one of the picks. I think for that home map, Bulgarians makes a lot of sense on Golden Pit, especially with the cheaper Kriposts. You can just litter the entire pit with Kriposts, and yeah, there's not much that the opposition can do after that. And Tatars, yeah, I mean they are extremely good these days, especially with the sheep and the other bonuses they get. They can be pretty nice. So yeah, let me just load the replays. Yeah, and give me a second here. I'll change the overlay as well. And yeah, so I guess we can just go live. This being the first game is on Arabia. We've got Rogan Voludo who's playing as the Khmer. I assume he's the pocket. And we've got the first flank who is Zoro who's playing as the Tatars. And finally the other flank is CSK Blue Wolf who's playing as the Mayans. So we've got Mayans, Khmer and Tatars on this side now. Let's see what the other civs are on this side. So we've got Zeus who's playing with the Vikings. The pocket is Pala who's playing as the Magyars, and finally we've got PJ who's playing as the Portuguese. So Portuguese on Arabia, I think yeah, more than anything else, you get the bonus of the cheaper gold units or whatever. That I think that's possibly one of the reasons why they've picked this Civ, because I mean apart from that on Arabia, I still personally feel there are better Civs available than Portuguese or Koreans. And yeah, so at this point, let's just take a look at the maps here. So we've got Zeus, still hasn't found his sheep, but of course it's still just 2 minutes into the game. And he seems to have decided to use his forward wood line to make his lumber camp, even though he knew that there was some wood over here. And some here as well. So yeah, pretty surprising. Although this might have been scouted a little later, so that makes sense. But honestly, I mean, yeah, considering the fact that he's playing as the flank, both of these would be considered forward. So there is that, and his main gold is unfortunately right next to this hill here. But yeah, I think he can manage to wall this off if he, goes for some walls from here to maybe here, and then to this wood line. On this side, the stone will come in handy for walling, and these walls can most definitely be made on the back. Yeah, I mean, it is possible for him to wall to the edge of the map. Would I recommend that or not? I don't know. Personally, possibly, maybe to the berries, to the stone, and maybe to the wood line. That might be pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, it's a pretty nice base for Zeus. So not extremely open like some of the map generations that we've seen for Arabia. Meanwhile, for Pala, let's just take a look at his map. So Pala still hasn't found his sheep, the ones in front of his base. But yeah, I mean, Pala's base is actually again pretty nice. I do believe he can wall up to the edge of the map if he decides to, because this isn't extremely long. Or if he does not, then I think he can use these stragglers possibly to the berries, and yeah, I mean, this is still a pretty weird thing to do. But honestly, yeah, I would personally just wall to the edge of the map. And somebody's about to lose his scout here. Oh, Zeus just manages to save the scout. But yeah, I mean that scout is not long for this world, and unfortunately, even though he might not be interested in aiming, and oh, so Zeus, yeah, that scout is living pretty dangerously. So yeah, anyway, let's just resume looking at Pala's base. So okay, he decides to go for these walls. This can be pretty effective. The only issue is like he's not got any real safe gold apart from this one, because the other gold is like way ahead of his way to the side of his base, and the same thing with this one, especially with these hills. Yeah, I mean I personally feel like he should have walled to maybe this wood line, and from here to here, maybe to this gold. Just try and have one safe source of gold. And so finally PJ is also using his front wood, or his front forward forest for his wood lines, and right, he's going for these walls again, which is extremely weird.
Tabish,
And Zubulf might also lose a scout here,
Bothafr,
assuming Zeus is paying attention, which he isn't. But I mean, fair enough. He's just quick walling these villagers at this point. Yeah, and yeah. So as you were talking about PJ's base here, honestly, PJ, I think he has one of the most valuable bases in this game, at least. This I think he can wall to the TC if he wants to. But I mean, apart from that, this guy, if he wants to, he can wall this up pretty easily. Yeah. I mean, but the funny thing is these guys are so bloody close to each other. So on this side you've got Zoro, who is also trying to wall up the front of his base. And yeah, so PJ I think might be pretty shocked here when he was playing, of course, to see that his enemy was this close to him. So we will definitely see some sort of aggression here pretty early, in fact. And Zoro, meanwhile, yeah, so he can use these wood lines to wall up. The back of his base is pretty open, and unfortunately, he hasn't found his sheep. But yeah, I think honestly, at this point, I feel if he's not getting to feudal age early, or if he feels like he's about to be hit hard from the opponent's flank, PJ, man, just drop a preemptive tower at this point. Save some gold for yourself, because for Zoro, I think, yeah. So one of his secondary golds is here. The other one, you might not even call it a secondary gold at this point. It's that far. And Rogan, yeah. So he's already going for his stable. Meanwhile, Pala, is he in feudal? Okay, so Pala is also in feudal age, and I believe he will also be building his stables. So yeah, there we go. And I mean, as I was saying, yeah. So this looks like a pretty interesting wall that he has decided to do. So he does manage to, or he does decide to wall to the edge of the map, except for this hole over here. But I mean, at this point, why not just wall from here to here and here to here? Gives you a nice base, to be honest. So yeah, Rogan has. Okay, so he's already got one scout in the stable. He's making more, and honestly, doing the smart thing here, going for these walls. And of course, he's playing as the Khmer, so it usually makes sense to just have one house around each economic building or whatever. So there's this house, so if any scouts or archers come into play, he can just put his villagers inside his houses. So that's nice. And again, on the other side, so CSK Blue Wolf is also pretty close to Zeus. Okay, and right, so there seems to have been an issue with some mouse battery or whatever for, I believe it was for Zeus. Or PJ it might have been. I was too busy to read properly. But yeah, anyway. And I mean CSK Blue is going for a pretty kick-ass base. Unfortunately, yeah, I mean this is extremely greedy. He's got a pretty nice safe gold, which he has managed to wall up. Uh, Over here, I think it would have just made sense to, use these walls, or make these walls rather than, what he's going for, which is some sort of artwork on his, on his side of his base. And I mean, I don't know if CSK Wolf is watching, but man, if you are, instead of this and this, why not just have a straight line? Because this, it's like you're actually inviting some sort of aggression on your forward stone at this point. And yeah, so Rogan is pretty much completely walled up. On this side, Zeus, I think, has forgotten about a scout over here. Unfortunately, that scout is too weak to do any sort of real damage. But yeah, so we've got Pala who's going forward with his 3 scouts. Okay, so Pala's got 3 scouts. Compare that to Rogan who's got 7 scouts. So I think it should be pretty obvious which direction the fights would go in if the scouts engaged with each other, which of course they are not. And yeah, so Pala unfortunately reaches just slightly too late. Rogan has managed to wall up his base, I believe, at this point completely. Yeah, he has. So yeah, these guys are going to be looking at palisades, and I guess the same thing can be said on this side as well. So Pala is also completely walled up. Unfortunately, he does not have a safe gold. So if there is any sort of aggression with archers or towers on Pala's gold, he might have some big issues over there. And yeah, so now so I mean the surprising thing here is, and will these walls come up? Man, oh, so we've got Rogan who has managed to get inside Zeus's base.
Who?
And I think, yeah, so I guess he did manage to complete the walls after that, but yeah, I mean, these scouts should, be able to make short work of at least a couple more villagers if they decide to, and as long as he doesn't run his scouts into TC fire. So yeah, we already got a couple of deaths here for Zeus. On this side, yeah, so Roman just pulls the scouts away because, yeah, this was walled up anyway, so there was no issue over there. And we've got CSK Blue Wolf, I think, was going directly towards the pocket here. Because I assume he has scouted his enemy's base, being Zeus. And okay, so we've got Rogan who's already clicked up to Castle Age. This should be a pretty dominant showing here. Unfortunately, I don't think Zeus has noticed that there's a gap over here as well. And he is moving forward with his archers, but yeah, I don't think they'll be able to do any sort of real damage, especially considering the fact that Zeus is about to be hit extremely hard with these archers and these scouts. And there's a nice hole here for these guys to get in. So yeah, this looks extremely bad for Zeus because Zeus is already 4 villagers down. And yeah, I mean these spears unfortunately won't be able to do anything because there are enough archers to take care of any spears that come to attack the scouts. And I mean Zeus does have the military, it's just that it was caught in the wrong place. He sent his archers forward to attack CSK Blue Wolves, but yeah, I mean meanwhile his base has been wrecked pretty comprehensively. So you've got 5 villager deaths for Zeus already. And these scouts are effectively still alive, and Rogan is about to hit Castle Age. He's already got Bloodlines on his scouts, he's got the first armor upgrade, so yeah, once the knights start coming out, I think this is pretty close to the end. Because we've got Blue Wolf who's got both the upgrades on his archers. Meanwhile, Zeus does not have the armor upgrade, and his base is completely open anyway. I mean, there's this massive gaping hole here. This has not been re-walled. This is again completely open. So yeah. I mean, honestly, looking at some of the walls that have been made here and the amount of wood that has been wasted in, trying to wall up and doing it extremely badly. Personally, I just feel, if these guys had walled up properly, none of this would have happened. So yeah, I mean Zeus, he did have the right idea to an extent over here. Of course, trying to
Tabish.
wall to the edge of the map, but I mean, honestly, it was never going to work considering, the other side of his base was pretty open.
Ja.
And yeah, I mean, any sort of walls, even if they come up now, are completely
Ashike.
pointless. Which,
Puin.
of course, I doubt will come up because yeah, we've got Blue Wolf
Shari.
who is coming forward with his archers. Of course, he's trying to run away, but I mean, they've done the damage that they needed to do early game.
Tabish.
And yeah, so I mean, as we can see, Rogan is already in Castle Age. Meanwhile, the other pocket, Pala, is most definitely not. He's still got about a minute and 15 seconds to go. So yeah, Rogan with his +1 knights at this point is about to hit Pala pretty hard. Or let's see which side they decide to go. Because I mean, personally, what can Zeus do at this point? He's lost 9 villagers, and even though PJ seems to have killed a couple of the opponent's villagers, which is something that we seem to have missed on this side for between Zoro and PJ. Some dead bodies here, so I assume that is where the fight happened. But yeah, I mean, long term, I think this is looking pretty bad for Holy Guns, especially with
Shari.
these archers. And Blue Wolf is already in Castle Age, and he's getting his crossbow upgrade, so is Zoro for that matter. And yeah, I mean, on this side, PJ does have a pretty sizable military, but he is still about 100 seconds away from Castle Age. So yeah, it's pretty unfortunate for these guys. And yeah, so you've got Zoro already moving forward, and yeah, there's no way the CC goes up. Assuming Zoro is paying attention, he should be. And yeah, so there we go. Unfortunately, Pala's CC will be denied over here. On this side, yeah, so Blue Wolf can just manage to, push in if he wants to. And as long as he has, like 3 or 4 knights from Rogan, it should be the end at this point. So yeah, that's 275 wood and 100 stone being wasted for Pala, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, even though he has his knights, and of course playing as a Magyar, so they get the free attack upgrades. These guys are no match for the number of knights that Rogan has over here. And yeah, so Rogan now also starting to trickle in knights inside Zeus's base, but yeah, I think it's GG at this point. Zeus is complete entire, his economy is in shambles, and I mean, even though he does have the military, he's just clicked up, which means it will be 2.5 minutes before he gets to Castle Age, and I think by that point there won't be anything left of his base. And yeah, so Rogan I think is sending these 4 knights. Honestly, at this point, yeah, I think he does not even need to come here because CSK has practically single-handedly just finished off the match on this side. And okay, so Pala does have his +2 knights now, but Rogan has the armor upgrade, and whatever attack upgrades he's missing, he's got these crossbows over here to defend his knights. Okay, so oh man, this is just too unfortunate for PJ. So PJ could have returned the favor that Pala had on his side where his TC was denied, still is. But yeah, I mean, instead he just ran in slightly too late, which meant that the TC does go up for the Tatas player with these 2 extra sheep as well. So yeah. And yeah, I think this is pretty much easy at this point. If you just look at the numbers or the difference in the numbers here, you've got 150, 52 villagers for stackers. Meanwhile, we've got just 100 for holy guns. No economy to speak of for Zeus. So even though he does manage to get to Castle Age, there's nothing left to do apart from, of course, these feudal archers. So I mean, the surprising thing here is he'll still manage to get Botkin on his archers. Unfortunately, no crossbow upgrade will come in, and I mean he's got just 14 villagers. So yeah, I mean, what can you do at this point? So yeah, there we go. That is the GG called in game one. So game one goes to the Stackers or Stackers Z, and pretty clinical showing here by Stackers. Hooligans, even though they've done pretty well in this tournament, they've beaten quite a lot of teams. Yeah, unfortunately, they just went up against one of the strongest teams in the tournament, and yeah, pretty bad for them. So let's just take a look at the stats. Play Feismeister inside. This is Cyanide casting away. Yeah, GG man. And yeah, so we can just see the the sort of damage that CSK Blue Wolves was able to do. 61 kills, 12 deaths, and meanwhile on the other side we've got holy shit. So that's 14 kills and 60 deaths for Zeus. And I mean, on the other side, it could have been pretty similar if you know if Zeus had managed to hold on his side of the flank slightly better than he did. I do believe PJ might have been able to have a pretty close match versus Zoro. But yeah, I mean, long term, there is no coming back from the fact that Rogan was, I think he had a large number of knights, way more compared to Pala, and he had the armor upgrade as well. And yeah, so economy wise, again, Stacker's getting all the stars over there, and the society numbers as well. So pocket versus pocket, we've got effectively double the number of villagers. The flanks were pretty similar actually, which is surprising. I expected a bigger difference over here, but I mean, if you compare Blue Wolf to Zeus, there's just a 5 villager difference. But I mean, if you look at the villager idle time, it will present a completely different story. But yeah, I mean, the villager numbers were pretty similar. It's just that Blue Wolf was able to do more with his villagers than Zeus was. And yeah, so there we go. Pretty sharp drop off for Blue Wolf over here. And yeah, so I guess we can just go to game 2. Stacker Z versus Hooligans. Game 2 will be on Hideout, as I can see here. So the poor man's arena. And right, so we seem to have a change in the team as well. So yeah, let me just fix that. So, we've got Feismeister playing. Right. So it will be Blue Wolf. We'll be having from the previous game as well. We had Rogan Vololo and we have Feismeister who is replacing Zoro in this game. So I guess we can just go live. We've got right. So we've got Rogan Vololo who's playing as the Burmese on Hideout. Okay. Uh, on this side we've got Feismeister who's playing as the Bulgarians as a flank. And on the other side, we've got Blue Wolf who's playing as the Teutons. So, holy shit. I mean, both these guys are going for cavalry heavy civs, Bulgarians and Teutons, of course. And Burmese, I think I know what's coming from the Burmese player, so should be fun to see that. And on this side, we've got Zeus who's playing as the Saracens, which might be interesting. We've got the Pocket Pala who's playing as the Persians, and the other flank is PJ who's playing as the Aztecs. So yeah, so I mean we've got Feismeister on this side who's playing as the Bulgarians. I mean I can sort of expect some sort of a bunch of Kripos or whatever from the Bulgarians player. So that might be coming, but then here's the thing, right? We've got Zeus on this side who's playing as the Saracens, and Saracens, of course, are known for their extremely potent archers when it comes to going up against walls. So whether they manage to actually, try and do a lot of damage in Feudal Age, I mean, of course, it remains to be seen whether they manage to do it or not. But if they do, this can be a very interesting game. And yeah, so we've got Zeus who's already pushing deer, and right, so we've got the deer that have spawned outside everyone's bases, and we've seen this in the past where somebody had a sheep right under their gate, and unfortunately the sheep was stolen. So it does happen. I personally just hope all the players are confident, or rather careful enough to not uh, have their sheep lamed by effectively offering it to their enemy. And yeah, I mean, this being hideout, there's not a lot to talk about apart from that. So you've got 8 seconds of idle TC time for PJ. PJ, of course, is playing as the Aztecs. So with the Aztecs, you need to do some force dropping,
Oh,
which he might have forgotten,
but
although he
nay.
has an idle villager here, which he doesn't seem to have noticed. So yeah, that is man. So you have the 500 IQ boar pull where you pull in the boar, you garrison the villager and just make the boar wait over there, and right when you start shooting the boar, it runs outside your TC. So yeah, some unfortunate stuff here for PJ on this side. So Pala is not bothering with the deer at all. Neither is PJ for that matter. So it's only Zeus who's going for his deer, and he has managed to at least finish off two deers. This is the third one. This is already inside, which I assume will be consumed at some point. Yeah, I guess so. And we've got Maestro who's just kept his scout idle over here. Let me see if Zeus can see this. So Zeus can see this. Unfortunately, he has not scouted what's right outside his walls. But this guy can very easily just be walled with a gate or whatever. Because if you delete this palisade wall and you place a gate like this, that scout's going nowhere. And on this side, so yeah, Meister also not bothering with the deer. And yeah, so that's a pretty nice border, as long as he manages to save his villager, which he does. But yeah, okay, fair enough. And now for Rogan, yeah, I mean Rogan, yeah, you don't need to really worry about those things with him. And I think he's just about okay. So he's also pushed in two deer. This is the second one. And finally on this side, so okay, so we've got we've got Zoowolf and PJ having a scout fight. Of course, this being the Dark Age, the Eagle
Fun.
Scout is better than the regular horse scout or the cavalry scout. But yeah, I mean, once it gets to feudal age, uh, of course, the balance switches. And we only have a barracks coming up at 8 minutes from Feismeister. So are we about to see some sort of a man-at-arms and towers play? Because of course, apart from that, it makes no sense to drop a barracks at 8 minutes on hideout especially. Looking at the idle TC time, so we've got hmm. So yeah, okay. So Zeus just decides to bail on the fight. Fair enough, but yeah, I mean these are the idle TC times at this point. So we've got 18 seconds for Zeus, 21 seconds for PJ, and just 2 seconds for Pada, which is pretty nice. On this side, we've got 12 seconds for Rogan. We've got 25 seconds, so effectively a villager for CSK Blue Wolf, and 18 seconds for Feismeister. And man, these scouts can't seem to get enough of each other. So, oh, okay, Feismeister, pretty nice over there, managing to just save his scout, but then he just engages with the fight again and loses his scout to Zeus's. What is surprising is Pala's scout was just right there. So yeah, I mean these guys they need to have slightly better communication. It should have been an easier fight for Zeus. And okay, so yeah, we've got pretty much everybody who is in feudal or about to click feudal. Uh, and are we seeing any sort of aggression? So PJ has a barracks up, as we can see here. No military yet, so no man-at-arms coming from PJ's side. What about okay? So Zeus is already going for his double ranges, and of course he's playing as the Saracens, as I talked about earlier. So he should be able to get inside Meister's base if he desires to. And I think, yeah, so for Rogan, it just makes sense to go fast castle, which is, I believe, what Pala might be doing as well. Let me just check the resources here. So, okay, surprisingly, I mean, this is what we didn't notice, but Blue Wolf is also going for a pretty fast castle age because he's already got 700 food, 200 gold, which means he can pick up in about 25-30 seconds or so. And meanwhile, for the other side, we've got just Pala who is going to go for an FC. So yeah, we've got Rogan going for his blacksmith and market. On this side, so Blue Wolf is going for a blacksmith and a stable. And of course, he's playing as the Teutons, right? So Teuton Knights, once they're masked up, they can completely destroy any opposition that they get. And yeah, so Feismeister not going up for not going to Castle Age pretty soon, and so we've got Feismeister with a stable. We've got an archery range, and he's already got scouts out. So he's got two scouts, Feismeister, at this point. Of course, he lost one scout, so to replace that, he seems to have gone for two scouts. And unfortunately, he's placed his blacksmith in a pretty awful location. That effectively denies like pretty much most of his stone piles, at least from this side. So yeah, there is that. And Zeus is
What's
marking
that?
up his archers. Honestly, at this point, yeah, I think he needs to go forward because he's
Nam.
got 10 archers. 10 archers can make pretty short work of these palisade walls or gates. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason why he needs to wait. Okay, so I mean, fair enough. He's going for team walls, or rather, walling up his side of the map. But I mean, to be honest, he needs to go forward because Rogan still has about a minute before he gets to Castle Age. Meanwhile, his pocket can start making some knights immediately. But yeah, so I mean, Feismeister has three scouts. Might be able to take one archer if he picks his fight properly. But
What's
yeah, I mean,
that?
at this point, yeah,
Amro.
patrolling these archers makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, yeah, exactly. He needs to be inside Feismeister's base by now. So Feismeister just runs past with his scouts, might lose all his scouts without any real damage being done, and Zeus needs to move forward right now. And honestly, at this point, if you know you've got
Nam.
this number of archers coming towards you, yeah, exactly. So he's doing the smart thing here. He's placing a tower. Of course, Saracens being Saracens, they can just pick and choose which side they want to enter. But yeah, I mean, we've got Feismeister already, collecting stones. So that is a pretty nice move by Feismeister. Which means he can make more defensive towers if he wants. Although I'm not sure where these villagers are going. Possibly for more fortifications behind this. Yeah, so there we go. He's building a couple of houses. Honestly, at this point, yeah, these houses don't make a lot of sense. You instead of he's go yeah, I mean, I guess he's going to the pocket. Whether he has seen this tower come up, I am not sure. Okay, so he has not seen the tower come up, and yeah, I mean, at this point, yeah,
What's
these
that?
guys will be wiped out by Rogan, who's already placing a castle here. So yeah, and he's got a second castle. We've got the first Arambai out. Yeah, I think this is about to be a pretty quick game because
Amro.
feudal archers against Arambai. Yeah, and on this side is blue. Okay, so blue have already got four knights or five knights. Fifth one is still just idle over here, chilling. Okay, so four knights going towards PJ's base. PJ is still in feudal age, unfortunately. No upgrades on his archers either. And even though he has a pretty big ball of
Nam.
archers, I mean, against these knights, okay, so he does not have the second upgrade yet. But I mean, fair enough. He might lose a few of his knights,
Amro.
but yeah, I mean, let's see what ends up happening over here. And unfortunately, Zeus seems to have forgotten about finishing up these walls, which of course does not make any real sense now because we've already got Arambai out on the map. And a pretty nice castle here by Rogan. So unfortunately, all of these archers are about to die. Some of them to castle fire, the rest of them to Arambai. Even though crossbows can, pretty effectively counter these Arambai over here. Yeah, I
What's
mean,
that?
there you go. There's no armor, unfortunately, on these crossbows, and yeah, they'll all just die. And okay, so there seems to have been a slight bit of battle over here, but Blue Wolf has just pulled his knights back, and he's just doing the smart thing here. He's making siege to break down the walls and go in. PJ has clicked up to Castle Age, by the way, but still about a minute to go before he gets to Castle Age, of course. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just Feismeister who is still in Feudal Age. And yeah, so there you go, he's just clicked up as well. And yeah, so, I mean, personally, uh, at this point, I would just ask CSK Blowers to send like 4 knights on this side. He has 9 of them, and a Mangonel as well. And maybe we'll get to see the first proper Badaboom of this tournament. Let's see if that ends up happening or not. And okay, so not as big as I was hoping, but yeah, I mean most of these archers are pretty weak. So if there is a second shot on these guys, a lot of these will end up dying. And okay, so we have Zovals with +2 armor upgrade now. So these guys can easily fight under the town center if they so decide to. And yeah, so there we go. That's the first real Badaboom and some more deaths. And yeah, I think at this point it's pretty obvious what's about to happen because PJ he just got to Castle Age and he's been completely wiped out at this point. So yeah, I mean he's got just one crossbow. Although that crossbow is fighting valiantly, there's no way he's going to be able to take out 2 mangonels. And yeah, I mean Arambai versus Palisade walls or Palisade gates. I guess we can just see what's about to happen here. And honestly, yeah, I don't think even placing the town center at this point makes any real sense. If anything, I think if the town center was placed possibly towards the back, it might have made some sense. And yeah, so we've got Rogan who is scouting the rest of the map. And okay, so these crossbows do manage to push these Arambai away. But yeah, I think unfortunately on this side, yeah, PJ is pretty much dead. He's having to give up pretty much his entire base. And Pala coming forward with his knights, but I mean these knights are most definitely not enough to finish off what CSK Blue Wolf had sent. And of course, Blue Wolf is playing as the Teuton, so these guys get the extra melee armor, and yeah, it's a pretty one-sided fight over there. Surprisingly, Rogan does not have the second armor upgrade on his Arambai, which is something I've noticed with him previously as well. I've noticed that he did not get his second armor upgrade in one of the previous games that I had cast. When he was playing as, I think it was a cavalry civ, and he did not get the second armor upgrade on his knights, which ended up affecting his knights pretty badly. So yeah. Okay, so Zeus is extremely heavy on stone. Honestly, if 21 villagers on stone, I wish he had just spent or rather assigned a few more villagers to stone. A castle would have done wonders for him here, to be honest. Or instead of these palisade walls, just fortify this with stone walls. Put up a castle here. That would have pushed the Arambai pretty effectively. But I mean, as it stands now, most of these villagers will die, and even though Rogan loses quite a few of his Arambai, I mean, there's a gaping hole over here, right? And we've got some siege coming from Feismeister anyway. And of course, Feismeister playing as the Bulgarians. So if he does manage to get to Imperial Age before the game ends, they of course get the cheaper siege techs, right? So uh, we might see some siege rams from Feismeister later on. Bulgarian archery ranges. Okay, I think, yeah, I mean, at this point, I think Rogan has just told him to, make elite comms.
Da.
Unfortunately, I don't think he told him about getting the blacksmith upgrades. So these guys are just the first Tama upgrade. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, Bulgarian archery ranges uh, usually not something that you see, right? And is he do? Yes. So Zeus with the correct move over here, at least in the short term. Hey Rairochi, thanks for the raid, man. So yeah, we've got Zeus who's actually doing the right thing here. He's building the stone wall, and honestly, at this point, if he does place a castle here, it could be pretty effective because he's already got these crossbows with ballistics. And Pala with pretty sizable military. So we've got these +2 knights and camels on his side, and yeah, I mean, of course, we've got PJ who had been pretty much pushed out of his base. So okay, I guess we missed this where they managed to reclaim most of their base, or most of PJ's base rather, although some of it is still under fire. Yeah, man, the tourney is going extremely well. Uh, right, so we have the fight right outside Pala's base. I think this is a fight that Pala will most definitely win because he's got camels and he's got knights and these are +2 knights. So even though the Teuton player gets the extra melee armor against this army, yeah, there's just no point in engaging with these guys. Yeah, I mean, of course, the will numbers will make a pretty big difference. Unfortunately, we've got PJ with just 28 villagers. So long term, I think we know the what the outcome is going to be. It's just short term if these guys manage to hold and if the pocket can get to heavy camels plus maybe even some paladins. It might be nice, but yeah, I think I spoke too soon because we've got Rogan building a castle where I was hoping Zeus would, and yeah, so Bulgarian skirmishers with just the armor upgrade. Yeah, I mean this is pretty close to a GG over here because PJ has been wiped out and Zeus, I think he did some pretty good defense on his side. Honestly, this castle or rather this location where I had been pointing out, if Zeus had managed to get a castle up here before Rogan was able to, they could have actually defended the push pretty well. So a castle here plus a stone wall here would have been extremely effective in holding off Rogan on this side. And right. So what did I miss here? What? So Pala seems to be going and coming out of his base quite often here. It seems to be a temporary accommodation for him rather than a permanent place where he can build his economy from. Because this is, I think, the second time we've seen Pala give up his base entirely. Sorry, not Pala, PJ. So we've got PJ abandoning his base again, going towards Pala's base. I assume he will end up going inside Pala's base, and yeah, this is
Amron.
hello. So okay, so we have Feismeister and Rogan both with forward castles. I guess we might even see some conics come out. And yeah, so we've got a TC on the stone. Honestly, I'm surprised Rogan at this point hasn't started collecting Feismeister stone. because Rogan has got 4 castles already, right? And of course, he's used up whatever stone he had inside his base. Let me just see what sort of scouting he has done regarding the stone. Okay, so he has not noticed this gold. He has not found out this stone. But I mean, it doesn't matter at this point anyway, right? You have the Bulgarian player dropping castles. You've got another castle from Rogan here. And yeah, I mean, at this point, Zeus with unbuilt archery ranges and a castle that effectively protects nothing at this point because there is no economy to speak of. Yeah, so yeah, again, like I said, in the previous game, a pretty clinical performance here by the Stackers guys. And Pala is about to have some more migrants inside his base. And in all of this, yeah, so we've also got Blue Wolf who has managed to get to Imperial Age and he's getting the Cavalier upgrade almost immediately. Elephants plus camels. War elephants. I assume you're talking about the Persian player who is the only civ that gets access to the war elephants. But I mean, what is the point here?
Salam.
Yeah, because these wars are most definitely not coming up. They would have come up if they were started about 2.5 minutes ago, while these guys were busy wrecking PJ's base. But I mean, this rate, yeah, this is pointless. And these guys are about to be cavaliers in about 30 seconds. So yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, if it was me personally, I would have just resigned because yeah, these guys are completely wiped out. We've got PJ with just 41 villagers. We've got Zeus with 52 villagers. Practically no military to speak of. Miracles can happen. Okay. Maybe we can see that in one of your in one of your games, right? Where you can, wreck your opposition, bring them down to single digits, and then just let them boom and yeah. So yeah, there we go. We have the holy guns calling the GG, and okay, I forgot to update this. So give me a second here. Got a best of 3 and turn to map. So we've got Stacker Z with a 2-0 over here against the Hooligans. So yeah, unfortunately for the Hooligans, it effectively means that they're out of the tournament. I hope that they had a lot of fun. They learned a few things, and we hope to see these guys again in future tournaments as well. And meanwhile, the Stacker Z will now progress on to the next round. Let me just show you the statistics first. So yeah, we've got Blue Wolf and Rogan effectively double teaming the opposition, and Firesmeister was surprisingly pretty effective on his side. So he managed to take, or rather absorb, quite a lot of the aggression or early aggression that Zeus would have sent towards Rogan's base. And again, I mean, like I was saying during the stream itself, that Zeus, I think waited way too long to mass up his archers. He should have moved forward slightly sooner. Of course, I don't believe that it would have changed the outcome of the game, but might have made it slightly closer. And another thing that I touched upon was defending with stone walls and a castle. That might have been pretty effective on his side. Honestly, on PJ's side, yeah, I think he got to castle age just way too late. So even though he had his nice ball of archers, they never could really do anything against Teuton Knights. So yeah, I mean, without any sort of fighting or whatever, getting to castle age at almost 23 minutes makes practically no sense. Like you can still keep massing up your archers, right, while you click up to castle age. So I honestly feel the castle age for PJ should have come in sooner as well. And Pala, yeah, even though he got to castle age, there was no way he was going to be able to save both of his flanks. So yeah, there we go. GG's guys, and Firesmeister with a pretty epic boom here. So that's 152 villagers for him. Let me just check his military. Okay, so he wasn't pop capped, unfortunately, but yeah, pretty close to being pop capped anyway. And yeah, so PJ and Zeus unfortunately could only to make a total of 100 villagers between them. Meanwhile, Pala alone effectively got more villagers than the both of them combined. But yeah. And yeah, so this is what I was talking about with PJ. You know, if he had got to Castle Age slightly sooner, these archers would have been crossbows, and those crossbows would have been able to defend against Blue Wolf's knights that managed to get inside his base. So yeah, let me just update the brackets. So yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, unfortunately, the end of this round also signifies four teams that will be leaving us. First one being Shikari, the second one being the Ninja Squad, third being Chaman Bahar, and the fourth being Holy Guns. Let me just show you guys the loser brackets. So yeah, these four teams will be leaving us at the end of this round, and I genuinely hope you guys had fun, and we hope to see you again in whatever future tournaments that we hold. If you guys have any suggestions regarding this tournament or whatever, please feel free to offer them directly to me, Cyanide on AOEIndia Discord, or any of the community managers, and yeah, we'll definitely take a look at them. So yeah, this sets up the round 4 of the loser bracket quite nicely. So we've got Logisticas against Stackers X, and we've got Team Agent against Stackers Z. So those should be a couple of cracking sets. And whoever, of course, wins in those sets goes up to face the Sultans and the Land Clan. So those will again, of course, be extremely close sets. So I hope you guys make sure to watch those sets whenever they are cast. Currently, I believe the sets are being scheduled, or they will be scheduled at some point in this week and be played. So yeah, that should be interesting. And this is an announcement. I don't believe people from the stream who are not so active on Discord might know about, but we are still on the previous patch. So whatever we've had with the new saves, the bugs, or the balance changes or whatever, we will not be playing on that patch. So we are still on the previous patch, which means saves like mines, which had obsidian arrows, which have been removed in the current patch. Players still have access to that technology. Same can be said for other things that might have been nerfed. For example, the Franks with their berry bonuses, or the berry bonus being nerfed or whatever, that still exists. And effectively, yeah, this means that we'll have a slightly easier progression towards the final rounds as well, because we've got the semi-finals between Three Man Saw and Team Archivist. Now, this I personally am trying to get these players or these teams to play the set live. If it is possible, we'll definitely make it happen. If it does not, we'll have to unfortunately watch a recording of the games. But yeah, I mean, we are trying to make sure that the set is played live. So yeah, I guess this is it from me tonight, and I'll be signing off. I will be seeing you guys next week once the rounds have been submitted or the records have been submitted, the recordings, and yeah, we can cast those. Semi-finals, I believe, will be held at a slightly later date, because I want the loser bracket teams to catch up. So whoever wins the semi-finals in the winner bracket does not have to wait for a very long time before the finals happen. So yeah, anyways, that's it from me tonight, and I'll be traveling in about an hour or so. So yeah, I hope to see you guys next week when I'm back, and should be a fun tournament, or the end of the tournament. And yeah, good night, guys. See you next week.